English immediately. Today we'll start Kuf Yud Tes Amud Beis at the Mishnah. Is that correct? Kuf Yud Tes, right? Okay. Starts like this. Shtei Yevamos. Two sisters-in-law. And they're married to brothers. Left out. That's a very important point. And Zu Imeres Meis Baili. Zu Imeres Meis Baili. I guess when it says Yevamos, it means that automatically they're married to brothers. That's what it means. So that's it. Didn't have to. Each one is claiming that their own husband has passed away. Now we know what that means, that they're able to get married, and they also have a mitzvah of Yibam. The only problem is that the brother is dead based on the testimony of the other wife. So, do we trust the other wife to say that her husband is dead? We do, but only for herself. We don't trust her for anything that's relevant to her sister-in-law, because maybe she's trying to mess up something in her life, some sort of hatred there. Well, if that's the case, then we can't allow each wife to get married to someone else because maybe the husband of the other wife is still alive, and that would be the Yavam. No, we're talking about that they only have one. There's only two siblings here, and these are the two husbands. If they're both dead, then both women can get married to anyone. But we're assuming that each one is alive, not for each person's own marriage, but for the sister-in-law. In regarding what's relevant to the sister-in-law, we assume that they're still alive. So Zu Asur Mepnei Baila Shel Zu. This one is forbidden to get married to any person from the marketplace. It's the expression that means that there's no mitzvah of Yibam. You can just get married to anyone. Because Baila Shel Zu, because the sister-in-law's husband is still alive. Not according to her. But Zu Asur Mepnei Baila Shel Zu, and the same with the other one. So they have a problem where they need to do Yibam or Chalitza on someone that's been testified that he's dead. We just don't believe it. L'zu Eidim, L'zu Ein Eidim. Next case. One of them actually has witnesses. Well, if there's witnesses there, that's a different story. Who's in a better situation? The one that has the witnesses or the other one? Turns out the one without the witnesses is in a better situation. Because regarding themselves, they don't need witnesses. If they're allowed to, if they theoretically could get remarried, they don't need witnesses that the husband died. Regarding the mitzvah of Yibam, do they consider the other husband dead? So the one without the witnesses, the other husband has the witnesses, so she can get remarried. The one with the witnesses that her husband died, the Yavam, the brother, her husband's brother, we don't have witnesses that he died, so she can't get remarried until we find out that the mitzvah of Yibam. So es sheyesh la'edim asura, the one that has the witnesses is prohibited because we don't have witnesses about the Yavam, about the brother of her husband. Veshein la'edim, the one that doesn't have the witnesses, muteres, it's permissible. Now it's obvious. It's saying it in a backwards way, so it sounds like it's interesting. The one that doesn't have the witnesses is really what it means is the one with the witnesses. Witnesses about the husband's brother is muteres. Okay. L'zu banim, l'zu ein banim. One of them has children and one of them doesn't. Okay, that's the easy one. If there's children there, then there's no mitzvah yibam. Es sheyesh labanim muteres. There's no mitzvah yibam. Es she'ein labanim asura. Now watch this. This is very interesting. Let's say the case that we had so far was that there's only two siblings in this family, two brothers. And not necessarily did they marry siblings. They married these, right. Now, let's say that there were really four siblings, four brothers, Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. Reuben and Shimon, their wives, Leah and Rachel, are left here as widows. So they did Yibam on Levi and Yehuda. Which according to their own testimonies, their husbands have died and they have to do Yibam. And Levi and Yehuda are right here. So, okay. Now, that's all fine and dandy. They were able to do Yibam, excellent. Now, Levi and Yehuda passed away. Now, all four siblings are dead. Only thing is, Reuben and Shimon, we don't really know that they're dead. We only know that they're dead based on the testimony of the wives. So now we're back into a situation where can they just get married to anyone? Or do we say that Shimon is alive, which was very relevant to Leah, because Leah has to do Yibam on Shimon. And Rachel has a problem because Reuben's really alive, which is her husband's brother. So take a look at this. Nesiabmu Mesu. They did Yibam, and then the Yavam passed away. The Yavam, you can't say Yavamais. Yevamim. The Yevamim passed away. Mesu Yevamim. Okay. Asuris li nase. They're not allowed to get married because they're back in the original situation that they were in before. However, Rabbi Lazar says, look at what you're doing over here. You allowed them to get married to their husband's brother. That means that you so sure that the husbands passed away that they can marry the brother. They married Levi and Yehuda. And now you're telling me that maybe Reuben and Shimon are still alive? If you trusted them to get to marry the brother, then they have to be considered dead. Belasa has a strong point. Tana. So that's Rabbi Belasa's point. Tana. Start in the Brisa, the Gemara says. That's a very interesting mix. We took two halachas from our Mishnah, joined them together, and it comes out with a different halacha. It's very interesting. If one spouse, let's say the one that has Reuven and Leah, they have witnesses that Reuven died, and they also have children. But Rachel and Shimon, there's no Edom that Shimon died, and Rachel, unfortunately, didn't have children. So Rachel has to do Yibam, but she's in a good situation because Reuven, there's witnesses that he died, so she doesn't have to do Yibam. That was the only sibling. Now, what about Leah? She has to do Yibam. There's no witnesses about Shimon. No, she's in a good situation also. She has children. So the one with the witnesses is exempt because of their children, and the one without the witnesses and the children is exempt because the other one has the witnesses. This is perfect. Shtei mutaris. Nesiavmu. Let's say they did Yibam because there were four siblings here, not just two. What does that mean? Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. Reuven, Shimon officially passed away, but Levi and Yehuda are around, and Rachel and Leah did Yibam on Levi and Yehuda. Mesu Yevamos, but Levi and Yehuda passed away. We had this case in the Mishnah. Certainly Nasi, they can't get married because back with the first problem of maybe Reuven and Shimon are still alive. Rabbi Lazar says no. If you allow them to do Yibam, then obviously you trust that the husbands passed away. Then they can marry anyone. Boy Rava. Rava has a question. My time of the Rabbi Lazar. What is the reason for Rabbi Lazar? Yeah, very important what Rava is about to do, to analyze. I mean, Rabbi Lazar is saying something here that sounds logical, but what is he really saying? Is it mishum de kasavar tzara me'ida lechaverta? Does he hold that we always trust a co-wife? Now here it's a co-wife, a future co-wife, because if they do Yibam, then it's a future co-wife. Does Rebbe Lazar say that we trust women to testify relevant to the co-wife?
So long as they're not one of the five.
Does Rebbe Lazar not hold of the five? Yeah. Or maybe really we don't trust him. However, in this instance, look at what this woman's doing. She herself is about to get married. And she did. She actually married the Shimon, and not Shimon. She married Levi or Yehuda based on her testimony. If she's ready to testify that her husband died and to go get married, you're not going to rely on that the other wife should be allowed to get married? Even if you think that she would lie to hurt the rival wife, but not to hurt herself.
But wasn't that the case in pretty much all the cases we've done? Two sisters.
Yeah. Yeah. It's similar. It's similar. There may be one detail here that's different. We'll see now when the Gemara says L'may nafkamina. What's the practical difference between these two possibilities? One is that Rebbe Lazar doesn't accept the five women that aren't trusted. And the other one is, no, well, she won't ruin her own, she won't mess herself up. The Gemara says, let's say that Sarah wants to get married before the other sister. Now, in other words, the other sister wasn't mekalkel herself yet. She just testified that her husband died. Quickly, Leah, go get married. Rachel says, my husband Shimon died. Leah, you can go get married. So can Leah really go get married? Once Rachel gets married, then we'll say, oh, well, look, Rachel is for sure saying the truth. She already got married. It's for sure Leah can have it. But can we let Leah get married? Now over here, it's a problem because they're both in the same situation. So each one is Mekame Tzara. But let's say one of them had the witnesses or whatever, and the other one didn't. And that would be we'll see in the Gemara how this is going to work. If you say that we trust them because Rebbe Lazar doesn't hold of the five, so we don't need her to get married. We trust her. We can let her get married because we trust the wives about their husbands, even what's relevant to the rival wife. But if it's only because she would never mess up her own situation, so if she gets married, then we can let the tzara get married. If she doesn't get married, then we don't let the other one get married. How do we know that she's saying the truth? Prove it. Take your own medicine. So what is the logic? What is the real reason of Rebbe Lazar? What does he really mean to say? So Tashma, come and listen. Rebbe Lazar says if they're permitted to the Yevamim, then they're permitted to everyone. Well, that's what it means when she's married. She gets married to the Yevama. In other words, here in the case where there's four siblings, Reuven and Shimon, they both claim, Leah and Rachel claim that they passed away. So then they go and marry Levi and Yehuda. So then fine. That's why they're allowed to now get married. But if you say that we don't have the issue of the five wives, we just trust them regarding everything. So then Afagav Delayans of Nami. So then why do they have to get married to the Yavam in order for them to be permitted? They were permitted even before this. We trust them. You notice in the Mishnah, Rebbe Lazar only shows up telling us his opinion after they got married. Seems like a good proof. It's a good proof that it's only because Lei Mekalkala Nafsha, she would never harm herself. She's harming herself, then we should trust her. Otherwise, she would be harming herself. The reason is because she got married and she would never mess up her own situation. And that's why we're trusting her. The Gemara says it's a strong point, but it's not conclusive. Because Rebbe Lazar ledevrayim kamerlahu. Maybe Rebbe Lazar is just trying to tell the Rabbanon what they should say. In other words, he says, me, myself, I hold much more than that. But you, at least you should accept this. Goes like this. Lididi, according to me, tzaramid lechaverta. I really hold that there's no 5 women that aren't trusted on each other. They'll be trusted. Even if they themselves have not gotten remarried, we would still let the other one get remarried. But according to you, at least you should admit that once they get married, that you should allow them to get married. Because she would never mess herself up. Okay, for Rabbanan, it's a good logic. What do the Rabbanan say? Rabbanan say, Thomas Nafshi and Pelishtim Mudakavda. They use the expression by Shimshon. It says, let my soul die with the Philistines. Right? It says, I'll go down as long as they go down.
So you would cause yourself
Suffering as long as they get the other one. Yeah. It's a machlekes here in psychology.
What?
According to Rebbe Lazar, a woman would never do this. According to the Rabbanan, a woman would do this.
Which is true.
It's different types of women. Okay.
There's different kinds of shimshons type.
Tashima.
You go down with a ship just to.
So remember that they said marriage is like a cantaloupe?
Yeah.
You have to pick a good one. Okay, Tashima.
So Rabbi, youngest Rabbi, you got jokes about marriage. This kind of joke.
Tashima, Rabbi Lersha.
Yes.
The Isha Shahalcha Hiyu Bailam Dina Sayam, woman. She went with her husband on a trip above Amra Meis Bailey. And she comes back, she says her husband died. So Tinase, she's allowed to get married, that we know, we trust her. Betitel Ksubasa. We said that she can also take her Ksuba. This was Machlekes Bisham and Beisil, but we said that Beisil then agreed. Even though it's a monetary case, we need 2 witnesses for this. But nevertheless, because it's based on something that she's believed for, so she can get the Ksuba. B'tzarasa Asura, however, the rival wife is forbidden. Rabbi Lazar says, Hayol v'hutra hutra nami tzarasa. Rabbi Lazar says if we permit her to get remarried, then we should also have to permit the tzara. It's pretty clear what Rabbi Lazar's shita. Rabbi Lazar's shita is, his opinion is that we trust one woman about the rival wife, things that are relevant for the rival wife, the co-wife. Gemara says, "Ema hayol v'hutra v'nisses." It's not 100% conclusive, because when Rabbi Lazar says hayol v'hutra because she's permissible, so therefore the rival wife is also permitted. Maybe not. Maybe what it really means is hayol v'hutra v'nisses, because she's permissible, and we saw that she got married already. That's when the rival wife is allowed to get married, not just before she gets married. If we would say before she gets married, which that was the simple reading of this, that automatically the other wife can go get married. So then fine. Then we would say that Rabbi Lazar doesn't hold to the 5 women that are not trusted about each other. But if we adjust the brisa a little bit and we say that it means that once she gets married, then the other one, so then it's only because Leima Kalkala Nafsha. The Gemara says, how are you so sure that if she gets married, that the other one can get married? There is a strong possibility here that maybe the husband actually gave her a divorce. And now, either for shidduch purposes or just to get the other wife into trouble. She comes back and she says the husband died. Really, she's divorced.
Yeah.
She claims the husband died. Now watch, she says, you don't believe me that the husband died? Watch, I'm even going to get married to someone else. Now, why is she marrying the other person? Because she's secretly she's divorced.
Yes.
So why is she saying that the husband died? Because she's the rival wife. She wants to get her into trouble by letting her get married to someone else. Then the husband's going to return and she's going to be in a big mess.
First wife.
So first wife is divorced. So she really has a way out of this whole issue.
This one's real stinker.
Yeah. So maybe she's really coming with a get. Behind the camera, and this is that she's saying that the husband died. She's trying to get the other one into trouble. Gemara says,
didn't investigate it enough.
Right.
It's her fault.
Yeah, but the fact that we're letting this woman get married, that's a proof that, and the woman's getting married, that's a proof that the other one should be that it should be the other one should also get married. So the Gemara says, you're right. If this woman would go ahead and marry a Yisrael, that's taka concern. But she's marrying a Kayan. So we know she's not divorced. Yeah. We know she's not divorced because else she wouldn't be marrying the Kayan.
Not such a big affair compared to adultery, though, right?
Right. But Mekalkala Nafsha, she wouldn't mess herself up. That's right. She would get totally messed up. The husband returns. She's married to a Kayan. She takes out the get. She would have to get divorced from the Kayan. She wouldn't go back to the first husband. She'd be in a terrible situation. So yeah, she would ruin everything. So obviously it's because she's trusted. She's obviously correct. At least she's relying on her own statement that the husband died.
The word Sarah, Sarasa,
Is a rival wife.
is that from the word because she gives you so much Saras?
Yeah, probably. We probably say, well, tsaras is already a word before, but it's associated with a tsar. Tsar means pain.
Yeah.
So
the rival wife is
the
really
rival
a
wife
pain
is a
in the
pain.
neck or something.
Yeah.
You allow that. It's a second wife. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Well, we assume that there's an unhealthy competition.
Always. It's built into the word.
Yeah. Yeah, probably when they had more than one wife, so the wives would fight over who gets more, attention from the husband. So the husband would could manipulate all of this, and to get better service and better, everyone's trying to please him. And it doesn't sound like a healthy. It's good that it stopped. Okay. If Rabbeinu Gershon needs my support. Ein Meidin, we have a new Mishnah. We sort of switched topics also. We're talking about that testimony now. Oh boy. Testimony about how we know that the person died. Ein Meidin el al parts of panim and machaitim. You have to be able, they have to testify that they saw the face together with the nose. If the nose wasn't there, then, talking about could be in battle or something. If the nose wasn't there, then that's not good enough.
If the nose was shut off, but the eyes and the mouth.
It's not good enough. We suspect that maybe he doesn't really know what he's looking at. Yeah. Google, in Google Photos, they match up your the faces with different. And they ask you, is this the same person? because they categorize people and they put them into folders for you. So if you have loads of pictures, family pictures, they'll find all the pictures with that person in it. And I don't know exactly what they're looking at, the eyes or the nose or the things, but it's funny.
So for riot control, that's how they do it. They want to arrest people who are at a certain meeting.
Oh,
They use these massive pictures and then they,
uh-huh.
the dangerous stuff, right? What was
Interesting.
in your class this certain day? Let's take a photograph of the 100 people that were there. Arrest them all. Arrest the bad guys.
Wow. So, even if there are signs on the body, like for example, the person's height or something, or on his clothing, there are signs that should be able to tell us who the person is. It's not good enough. It needs to be the face with the nose. A person can only testify about someone else unless he knows that the person was actually dead. Not like, oh, he was shot. Maybe he survived. Even if you see that the person was cut open. Yeah. Good is the cut. It means he has wounds of like a sword or something. Vitzolov, or if you see the person was crucified, he's hanging on a stick. Now, he doesn't die from that. He dies from whatever, starvation or dehydration or loss of blood or whatever. So it doesn't mean maybe they took him down and he survived. And even if there's a wild animal that's eating the body, you can't say that he died unless they know that he died. Maybe somehow the animal got distracted and went away and left him there wounded, but he still survived. You have to see the body within the first 3 days of death, because afterwards it gets deformed and you can't tell. Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava says not every person, not every place, not every hour is the same. Just to make a rule like this, that 3 days. Now the Gemara is going to ask, is Rabbi Yehuda being more strict or being more lenient?
Or could it be composed faster?
Could be, sometimes it's faster, could be it's slower. What does he mean to say?
Body on ice.
Okay. Tana Rabbanan, right? Started in the Brisa, Padachas, the forehead, only parts of panim, but not just the face. Parts of panim, v'lei padachas. The face without the forehead. Ein mid not shishneim memachaytim. You need both. You need the I guess it means the cheeks, parts of panim, and the mouth. And you also need the forehead, and you need the nose. Okay, Amar Abaya. Vitem Rav Kana. Micro, where do you see this? It says Hakaras Pneim Ansabam. The recognition of their face testifies on them. Okay. Abba Bar Marta to Abba Bar Minyumi. Abba Bar Marta, apparently his mother's name was Martha, right? And his father's name was Minyumi.
This is Shmuel's.
I don't think so. I don't know. That was Mari Barachel. That was someone else. Have a maskebe debay Reish Galusa. I guess he owed money to the Exilarch, to the Reish Galusa. Maskebe Reish Galuzuzi, money. He owed money to them, but he didn't have the money, so he didn't want them to do any harm to him. So Isi Kira took wax, Davak Bibalaisa, he put it on some fabric, worn out clothing, like bully means worn out. Davak Bapuse, he stuck it to his forehead. Chalaf Kamayo, he went by them, Balay Bashkarua, and they didn't recognize him. That means he changed the way his forehead looked. He put on a mask, and they didn't know who he was. This is a mask over the forehead.
Oh, it covered the rest of them?
No, it was just the forehead.
Just the forehead.
That's what it sounds like. It doesn't say. I mean, it's trying to tell us about the forehead. Okay, appreciation simonim, even though there are signs on the body or signs on the clothing, but that's not good enough for us. Lememra, do you mean to say the simonim lav deiraisa, that we can't rely on simonim for Torah laws? But I'll ask you a contradiction. It says matzu kosher because barniki b'tabas ishnim tzben kela filas man ruba kosher. Let's say someone finds a get, and the get was tied to a wallet or a purse or a ring, or he finds it amongst his other things. Even if it's a long time, it's still kosher. The get is kosher. Now, the get has to be done lishma, has to be done properly. How does he know that this is the original get? That the one that he brought, the one that this, how does he know it's still that this is it? Well, because he has simanim on it. What are the simanim? It was tied to a this, it was tied to a that, it was found amongst this. So that's the siman. And we're allowed to trust that siman for him to give the get to the woman.
Someone else, an agent.
Someone else. So an agent brought it and he loses it. Someone finds it.
Get hasn't been delivered.
The get hasn't been delivered. Now he wants to give it, but how does he know it's the original get that he brought? So we rely on a siman.
FedEx comes a week later and finds something, a package that hasn't been delivered, and it's okay to
Right,
deliver it.
right.
But it's got these simonim.
So I'm Rabbi Likasha Rabbi Lozer ben Ma'avoy Rabbanan. It's a machlokes. You have a source in our Mishnah that says you can't rely on a siman. We have a source from a Mishnah in Bab Metzia or in Gittin that you can rely on a siman. How do you answer that contradiction? It's a machlokes. The Tanya was taught in a brayse in Me'idin ala Shuma. You can't say that the person died because we know it's him because there was a certain mole on his face, on his body. Rabbi Lozer ben Ma'avoy Amar Me'idin. Rabbi Lozer ben Ma'avoy says no, that mole, you can that is a siman that it's him. My lavaka miflagi must be that this is the machlokes. Mar savar simanim deraisa. That the Tanakama, well, actually, Rabbi Lozer ben Ma'avoy says that simanim deraisa. He's the author of the Mishnah in Bab Metzia that says that you can return the get based on the simanim. Mar savar simanim derabanan. And the Tanakama holds that the Rabbanan hold that simanim are derabanan. And you can't testify about the mole, or you can't testify about simanim on the person. Amar Rava says not necessarily. Could be the kuli alma simanim deiraisa. Everyone holds that a siman is deiraisa v'acha b'shuma mitzuya b'ben gili kamiflagi. That machlokes really has to do with the two people have the same mole. If they're born under the same constellation, doesn't mean that they have the same mole, same birthmarks, and same simanim. Mar savar shuma mitzuya b'ben gili. Mar savar eina mitzuya b'ben gili. So one says that their lookalike has the same moles. Another one says that it's not the lookalike, it's the born alike. Born under the same constellation is going to end up with the same distinguishing marks. Okay, how does he resolve the contradiction between the two things? Everyone holds simanim deraisa. The only thing is that that's a siman that was on the get, but this is a siman that's on the person's body.
Right.
That could be that someone else has the same siman. Ikadamri, there are those that say really what we're talking about, does the sign change after the person dies? This one says that the mole after the person dies looks differently. This one says it doesn't look differently, it's still a good sign. Ikadami, there are those that say Amar Rava, that Rava said this differently. The kuli alma simanim derabanan, really everyone holds that it's only rabbinic, a siman. So for deraisa laws, it's not enough. So why over here do we accept it? By the Shuma, at least by the Rabbi Elazar ben Mavai, and by the get, we're going to trust the siman. The siman muvak kamiflagi. It's about a siman muvak. Mar savar siman muvak. Mar savar lav siman muvak. Siman muvak means a very, very particular siman. Not just a very clear siman. But there's nothing else that has something like this. Right. An excellent siman. Unambiguous. Okay. In other words, what we just said was that even though simanim are derabanan, but a siman muvak would be a deraisa. According to the view that we said that simanim are deraisa, but going back to the beginning, so what do you do about our Mishnah? Our Mishnah said that if he has a siman on the body or on his clothing, we don't trust it. The Gemara says, well, that's gufay darach v'guts. That's just his height. It's not a good siman. And Kalov, the cheshin l'shayla, can't trust his clothing because we suspect that maybe he lent his clothing to someone else. Find someone wearing that clothing dead doesn't mean that this person died. Gemara says, v'cheshin l'shayla, if you suspect that maybe he lent it out, so now we have a problem because we have another Gemara in Bab Metzia. It says, chamar b'simani yokev. Someone finds a donkey. There's no siman on the donkey, but there is a siman on the saddle.
Yeah, that's right.
It says you have to return it. Not only the saddle, you have to return the whole donkey. Well, hechi madrinan. How can you return it? Maybe one donkey lent the saddle to his friend, the other donkey, that means the owner. The owner maybe lent the saddle to someone else. Now you're returning the donkey to it wasn't even his. It says, no one lends out saddles. The maskiv leilachamra, because it has to be, you have to break it in so that it doesn't bruise the animal. When you lend it a different saddle, it causes a bruise on the animal. So they don't lend it out. Matzah kosher b'kisabarnaki b'tbasich madrina. And how can you return the get? Maybe he lent the kiss. Maybe he lent it. Maybe it wasn't the original. It wasn't this person's. Now you're going to return the get. So it says, Tabas chayis l'siyufi. No one lends out their ring. Kiss varnaki, the wallet. Menachshi inshi v'lei mushli. They don't want to lose their luck. They don't lend out their wallet. Somehow their luck is attached to that. Another way of saying this is that the clothing was just, he was wearing a white shirt. He was wearing a red shirt. That's not a siman. Someone else had a white shirt. Okay. Wow. Yeah, a lot of times in the yeshiva, the boys they lose something and they see someone else with the same item. They say, that's mine. And they start arguing. He says, what do you mean? I brought it from home. He says, what are you talking about? I brought it from home and I just left it here. And that's my, the sale items that everyone sees it. It's, it's my pencil. So what do you mean, your pencil? We all went to the same store. We bought pencils.
So they have to write their name on everything.
Yeah, or they hold on to it. But if they lose it, so just because it looks like the one that you had does not mean that it's yours. Okay, afilu meguyad chulu said even if we see that he's cut open, doesn't mean that he passed away. L'meimra the meguyad chai. Pass me the pencil. I won't. I won't claim. Yeah. So is this to tell you that someone that cut open could still live? But there's a contradiction. Person doesn't become tameh, doesn't give off to him until he dies. Even if he's cut open, and even if he's on his deathbed. Okay, now the Gemara is medayek. Tumuye leimatami. He doesn't give off the tumah. But that doesn't mean that he's going to survive. We're only talking about at what point, if there was a vessel in the house that was removed before the actual death, then we say that it didn't become tummy. But can the person get up and walk away? That's we're not saying. Amar Abaya lekasha. Abaya says it's not a contradiction because Harab Shimon ben Elazar harabanan. It's because there's really a machlekes about this. Because the Tanya was started in Bryce Midin Alam Maguyad. This opinion holds that you can testify that the person died because he was cut open. Bein Midin Ala Tzalav, but you can't testify on someone that was crucified because that maybe he was taken down. Reb Shimon ben Elazar Reimer Afal Maguyad ein Midin Neishen Yachal Pnei Yachal Lichveis V'Lichies. Shimon ben Elazar says that even someone that was cut open can still survive. Why? Because maybe it was lichveis, it was burnt. This is today they use electricity. I think they cauterize. They go a little. They do a surgery. They want to stop the bleeding from each little point. You have this like little pen. It goes, they do each little piece. So that could be that the person was cut open, but he survived because it was cauterized. Mimatis leukme. So, okay, we're saying that basically a person can survive being cut open, and so therefore, Shimon ben Elazar holds you can't testify about this. Mimas looking at Shimon ben Elazar. Can we actually say that our Mishnah is Reb Shimon ben Elazar v'Katani Seifa? But it says later on. It says afterwards. The next Daf. It says Ma'aseh ba'Asya. Story in Asia. Everyone was in Asia. This must be a city. Can't say in Asia.
It's a province of Rome.
A province of Rome. Okay, fine. So you're saying there's a story on planet Earth. Okay. Be'echad sheshil shalu liyam. They lowered him into the sea. Also biyadim el raglai. When they brought him back up, they only brought up his foot.
Wow.
They lowered him down by his foot. They bring him back up. They just brought up a foot.
It was shark ate him.
Probably a shark or something. Amr Chachamim, the sages said, Minarkuva lamaila. If it's from above the knee, then tinase. Then if he was cut off the body, we don't know what happened to the body. Disappeared. So if it's from above the knee that was brought back up, then the wife can get remarried. However, Minarkuva lamata leitinase. From below the knee, then she can't get married. Well, what are we seeing? That our Mishnah is saying that someone that's cut open above the knee is not going to survive. And Reb Shimon ben Elazar was the first opinion that said he could survive. Umar says, Shani Maya de Marzumaka. No. Over there, he's in the water. That's much worse. What is Marzu? It makes it worse. It makes the wound worse. But 1 second. Rabba Barbachana, Ledidi Chazali, Taya de Shakal Safsira, Vagaidi Legamle, Velay Afsikse Linaruse. Rabba Barbachana has a lot of stories in the Gemara, all the wild stories, Rabba Barbachana stories. He says that he sees an Arab merchant, he takes a sword, he cuts his camel. The camel was in the middle of, what's it called? The camel noise? Braying? No.
Yeah, say braying.
Braying?
What is it? You know what it sounds like? We have a recording of it.
No.
What is that? We would have
Dr. Stein, they want to know what the sound the animal, the camel makes. So.
No idea.
Does Google have it?
So
Look it up.
It died so fast that when the animal was cut, that it couldn't even stop. It was still in the middle of making the sound. Yeah. So you see, what are we seeing? That being cut open, it dies right away. Amar Abaye, Chisha, but that's not a proof. That was the animal was so weak, it just died on the spot. Rava B'sakin Melabenes, V'divrei Hakol. Rava goes back to what we said before, that how is it possible that a person is cut open and he's still going to survive? Talking about that the knife was a heated up knife. So as he was being cut, it was being cauterized as he's being cut.
Oh, that's a good one.
So that case was different. That's why he survived. Okay. And everyone could agree with. Our Mishnah, in other words, the fact that he was cut open, that doesn't mean that he's going to die, because by us we were using the cut was being done with a very hot knife that cauterizes the cut as it's. Okay,
So these are all limitations on
the testimony.
a coming and presenting the conclusion that someone died. It's always free to come and say, and he should come and say, I saw him. And, all I saw was all that came out of the water was his ankle, and his foot, nothing else ever came out.
Right.
I saw him cut up in this.
Right.
And then the base him could say, well, under
Must
that
be.
circumstances, he must have died.
Right,
Right? So it's not that he can't testify, it's
Right.
just that he can't conclude.
right,
Yeah.
right. Right.
So only a basin could pronounce him dead.
And he can testify to what he saw. But that's different.
Let's leave it over here. We'll go to Davin. We're up to Vachaya Cheles. Tonight, Mitzvah Shem 7:20. We'll see how much we can do. Then Mitzvah Shem tomorrow, we'll get close to that.